development can solve Nigeria's problems. Akwa Ibom State Governor Udom Emmanuel inaugurates committee to plan hitch-free handover of power to next administration. Residents of Ikpa Road in Akwa Ibom State capital decry incessant dumping of refuse in drainage systems. On the foreign scene, U.S. President Joe Biden rules out sending F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine. In the sports, Africa on the 17th Cup of Nations draw to hold tomorrow. Details coming up shortly. Good afternoon. Welcome to the news on Planet Radio 101.1 FM. With you, I am Bright James. We begin this afternoon with the number one citizen of Akwa Ibom State, Governor Udom Emmanuel, who has inaugurated a transition committee to plan for a hitch-free handover of power to the next administration in the state. Inaugurating the committee at the state's banquet hall, Government House, Governor Emmanuel charged the members of the committee to verify all projects executed by the present administration from inception till date, liaise with all ministries, departments and agencies to derive the needed information for submission to the government.
Also compile information so that the presentation to the government. I want this committee to work very hard. Let all NDS prepare everything. They have a very short period to submit a report. So they have the whole of February, they have the whole of March to work on this report. By April 1, they will submit a report. So that by that time, election would have been conducted. Then we'll hand over so that the incoming governor can have time to use that same document and set up his own transition committee to know where to start from.
The governor thanked the people of the state for their support, assuring that his administration has judiciously utilized the resources accrued to the state for the development of the area. Government House Correspondent General reports that the transition committee is headed by the chairman of the State Civil Service Commission, Ekarabomo. Other members of the transition committee include the Accountant General of the state, U.S Andresian, Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Udom, and the Auditor General of the state, among others. Meanwhile, Akwa Ibom State Governor Udom Emmanuel has sworn in 6 new permanent secretaries into the state civil service. The charge on them to effectively manage the staff under their care for higher productivity in the service. Speaking during the event held at the state's banquet hall, Government House, Governor Emmanuel said the appointments were based purely on merit and urged them to be dedicated to their duties. They are the pillars of effective administration of the government. The governor, who warned against lobbying for appointments to the position, however, said more permanent secretaries would be appointed to fill vacant positions in the state civil service.
So let me thank all of you for accepting to serve our people in this hugely important task. Your selection is a testament of the faith we place on your capacity. We are still not finished appointing permanent secretaries. By the time we do 2022 promotion, I will get the quality of those I'm looking for so that they can fill other vacancies. You have the opportunity to serve your people, even if you don't do anything. As a permanent secretary, do something that those working under you will remember. You must have something to pass on to those following you. So, as a permanent secretary, you are chief operating officer of those MDAs. Be able to mentor people so that you don't leave a gap. We really want to have a very, very strong civil service that will support the structure of governance.
Those appointed as permanent secretaries are Mfone Demeko, Ikwabia, and Dr. Stephen Efio. Others are Atomokopo, U.S Andresian, and Isaiah Ntekem, while Emma Yangpan was sworn in as the Auditor General for local government. Government House Correspondent General reports that the governor also inaugurated chairmen and members of recently constituted boards and agencies of the government. These include the Boards of State Environmental Protection and Waste Management Agency, IECON, AKISIE, and SUBEP. Away from that, some residents of Ikpa Road in the Akwa Ibom State capital, have complained of the incessant dumping of refuse in the drainage by some of the people in the area, which has led to flooding. Speaking with Planet News, they said that when it rains, the waste dumped in the drainage would litter the road and pollute the environment. They further stressed that the act makes it difficult for those sweeping the road, as they have to use extra hours to clean the road.
The me phone na me wo me kan kan from mo ya sana but mo say me ga so de me me ro ma ko ni tieti ntonte me we ke dong me mbio ke gota usong baka fe me ke digro ma me afen borosio a wo to baka ayi kan ni ya mo kana fro fon anyi ngo amana itie diene iya kan ko ngine asana
ya montir ngo ke ngene Akwa Ibom State me enam te pano bogo tem ke nam ya kan ko mo sana e ma ngene mbio ntero ngo eni tem mbio se ko mbio mo ke e dong ama ngo ke mo sen mbio ro ngo yo mbe ne ke wangero ke fono na session do ngo stop ke me wa kwa me kamera ntero me ma de aya na riti e ban jinen di
ke me enam bom mbio ko fo mo ke e dong mbio mo e me bi wo e be ne mbio re ke do ke tan ne ni ti ka na me e bo ya se do ngo mbio
tai no kwa me ya ba anye bi de nan sere yo mbo ke so do mu ke me mu kan na kanu sang ku wo tin de government ma ke yo be san e bo ya se ri dong mbio so kwa ku fo mo fre mbio mi so ya tra ge nam ya ton dong ngen kan nan gong ne sana mbo.
Further, speaking with our correspondent, Nyabit, the people, however, pleaded with the government to put measures in place for offenders to be punished to serve as deterrents to others. They also pleaded with fellow residents of Ikpa to desist from such act and join hands to keep the environment clean. Now, to the national scene where President Muhammadu Buhari said no single government could solve Nigeria's problems. Buhari said the efforts of successive governments is required to resolve Nigeria's challenges. He spoke at a State of the Nation dialogue on security, economy and administration of justice in Abuja, organized by the Nigerian Bar Association. Represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, Buhari reminded lawyers that they owed the nation some responsibilities. Away from that, the United Nations have advised that Nigeria get it right with the 2023 general elections and must not fail. The global organization also stated that the only path to succeed for the nation was through sustainable development, which it had been advocating. UN Deputy Secretary General and Chair of the UN Sustainable Development Group, Amina Mohammed, said this in a keynote speech presented at the Nigerian Bar Association State of the National Dialogue with the theme Security, Economy and Administration of Justice. Mohammed assured that the UN would support any process that would lead to credible, all-inclusive, free and fair general elections. The UN is committed to accompanying Nigeria on the journey. In education, the Registrar of the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, Ishaq Loyode, has said that the board is targeting 1.8 million candidates to register for the 2023 Uniform Tertiary Matriculation Examination in the country. Loyode, who disclosed this in Ilorin, Kwara State while inspecting computer-based test centers, said it is expected that about 1.8 million candidates will register for the examination, noting that only 445,081 have registered so far. Loyode further said there would be no extension of the February 14th deadline for the ongoing registration for the JAMB examination. You're listening to the news on Planet Radio, 101.1 FM. Let's take a breather. Then bring more stories from our foreign sports and entertainment scenes. Do stay with us.
Planet 101.1 FM. News, quality information, crisp delivery, and on time. Planet News at 7 a.m., 12 noon, and 6 p.m.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, on the foreign scene, U.S. President Joe Biden has ruled out sending F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine, despite renewed calls from Ukrainian officials for urgent air support. Ukraine has long been pushing its allies to send advanced warplanes to help Kyiv take control of airspace in its ongoing war with Russia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and the country's top military officials say there should be no taboos on such military aid, but the U.S. and its partners fear this would lead to further escalation with the nuclear-armed Russia. According to reports, U.S.-made F-16 fighting Falcons are widely considered one of the world's most reliable fighter jets, are used by other countries such as Belgium and Pakistan. In sports, the draw ceremony for this year's Africa Under-17 Cup of Nations will hold tomorrow at the Sacre National Diame in Algiers, Algeria. Five-time world champions Nigeria is one of the 12 countries whose names will go into the pot for the draw, as all participating teams get to know their group phase opponents for the tournament, scheduled for April 8 to 13, Africa's largest nation by landmass, Algeria. Nigeria, Morocco, Senegal, Mali, Burkina Faso, Somalia, South Sudan, Zambia, South Africa, Cameroon, and Congo are all the 12 participants. The 12 teams will be drawn into 3 groups of 4 teams each, with the 4 top-placed teams qualifying to represent Africa at this year's FIFA Under-17 World Cup finals taking place in Peru. Now, on the scene, the Chicago prosecutor said that she's dropping sex abuse charges against singer R. Kelly, following federal convictions in 2 courts that should guarantee the R&B star will be locked up for decades. Cook County State Attorney Kim Fox announced a decision a day ahead of a hearing related to state charges accusing him of sexually abusing 4 people, 3 of whom were minors. She said she would ask the judge to dismiss the indictment today. Fox, who in 2019 had pleaded with women and girls to come forward so she could pursue charges against Kelly, acknowledged that the decision may be disappointing to his accusers. It's been the news on Planet Radio 101.1 FM. But before we go, a recap of the major stories.